Hello and welcome back to the ET Enthusiast, what I'm assuming is probably the only podcast exclusively about ET the extraterrestrial. I'm your host, Wesley Boutelier, and we have a knockout episode for you today. You know him from the podcast with Gorley and Rust, the hit Netflix show Love, the musical duo Don't Stop or We'll Die, and he is one of the writers for Peewees Big Holiday, also on Netflix. It is the one and only Mr. Paul Rust. How's it going, Paul?
I'm doing great, Wesley. Thank you. First of all, so much for starting a podcast about ET. And second of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. Much appreciated. I'm always happy to talk about ET.
The favor goes one way. You are doing me a huge favor being on this
No, not at all.
very new show. So I really appreciate it.
I mean, I'm shocked that there is only one podcast devoted to this movie. A movie that at one point was the highest grossing, most beloved movie around the globe.
Yeah.
People should be talking, singing from the rooftops about E.T. the extraterrestrial all day, all morning, all night, as far as I'm concerned. I love this movie, and I'm happy to always spread the good word.
I appreciate that. I'm always happy to meet somebody else who's a big ET guy. So
yeah,
it is weird because it was the highest grossing movie ever, and you see videos and stuff from back then. It's like ET merchandise everywhere, and now it seems like not really so much. Like a little more now for the 40th anniversary. Like I think they're gearing up, but it's like I always say ET should be like one of those characters like Snoopy or like Stitch. Like you see them on merchandise everywhere, or like for the holidays. And no
those
ET
are perfect
stuff.
comparisons. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that in my mind growing up, Snoopy, E.T., and Garfield all occupied the same merchandising space, and rightfully so. And it's a boom to E.T. fans now that there was so much great merchandising made at the time when it came out, because now it's just like eBay is an ongoing treasure trove.
Oh yeah.
I
It's
just got some stickers for my daughter that
oh
were,
nice.
I think, some bootleg ET, because it didn't officially say ET, but it was like really great 1983 era stickers where it's like an alien wearing a blue flannel holding a flower pot. It's like, okay, that's
I
enough
think
to get around it
I think
legally.
I may have those same ones you're talking about. I
They're
love
exquisite.
I love any like weird bootleg stuff. Like
Yes.
I have like these weird books basically made of paper from China, and it's an ET storybook, but like I'm flipping through it and there's like a scene with like a kid's butt, and I'm like, what is this? Why? And I
This is
can't.
not my ET.
It's so bizarre. And then I have
Yeah, go ahead. No, tell me.
I have a a pamphlet from Jews for Jesus that uses ET and like tells the whole story of Jesus except using ET, which to be fair is very easy to do with the whole like resurrection thing, but it's very funny how everybody like jumped in on the ET stuff like full throttle back then.
Yeah, everybody was on the ET bandwagon. They jumped on. I was just gonna show you right here. This was a book that I grew up with, that my sister got. That was the ET storybook. And when you mentioned, scenes that were not in the movie, you've seen this picture, I'm sure, and I know that this is a audio format, so I'll describe what it's a beautiful kind of like storybook with a hardcover, and it has pictures from the movie in it. But Wesley,
I think I know the one you're gonna pull.
I think you know too, because you're a fan. This picture of Elliot where he's drawing on the wall.
Oh, you know what? I did not know you were pulling that, and I don't think I've seen that.
Okay, so he's drawing like circuitry on a chalkboard, and it's going across a nurse's office. Now, and we'll jump into all things ET. I'm sorry to start with this, but
No,
this is a nice little nugget.
Awesome.
But my sister, for the longest time, this storybook is what I relied on for ET, because I didn't get to see it in theaters. I was born in 81. I didn't get to see the re-release in 85 or when they did that. So I had to wait until it came out in video in the late 80s so I could
Oh
see it.
yeah,
So
because it
this,
wasn't until later that it hit VHS. Because I know there was like a big deal, like come to, I feel like it was Sears or something, like come
yeah.
get the videotape and get a picture with ET and all that.
Oh, it was the biggest deal at a video store. And I would go in every time I'd visit the video store, I'd be like, do you have ET? And they're like, it's not even like ET's been out and do you have it? It was like, ET won't be released for another 3 years and I'm asking for it. They're like, no, we don't, they don't have ET on video. I couldn't understand like why it wasn't on video yet. So I would rely on this book. And in this book, there's a picture of Elliot drawing
Wow.
these circuits on the wall in his classroom. And I asked my sister, Amy, what's that about? You know, because she would explain the movie to me. She's like, oh, there's a part when Elliot's hooking up with ET, when ET's at home and Elliot's at the classroom. And ET's looking at his phone home stuff, and Elliot starts writing the circuitry on the wall. Now, here's the thing, Wesley, and I'm wondering if any fellow enthusiasts or fans listening could maybe get to the bottom of this. IMDb claims that scene was in the theatrical version and was not
Yeah.
in the video or
You
any
know,
home video releases.
it's funny that you say that because I talked to D Wallace back before I even made this podcast. It was like during COVID.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had no idea she was gonna say yes. I was like, I'm not gonna get a reply. And then she was like, yeah, sure. But we talked about another scene that I've only seen like a picture of where ET is like looking at Mary when she's in bed and she has like a sheet like kind of pulled down. You see like her bare back, and he's, I believe, placing Reese's Pieces on her pillow.
Yes, I've seen that picture too.
Yeah,
You
and
asked her about it?
I asked her about it, and she
Right
said
on.
something similar where she was like, that was in the theatrical release, or like there's a version that is in. And I'm like, I've never seen this scene in my entire life. I don't know
Wow.
what you're talking about. But
Yeah, I mean, it could have been that my sister saw this picture and sort of built a scene around it. And then the people on IMDb are saying, oh, yeah, that scene was in the movie and it never was in the
yeah,
theatrical
it could be
version. Who knows?
a Berenstain
Yes.
Bears situation.
Exactly. But hopefully, if anything, with this podcast, Wesley, somebody will get to the bottom of this.
Yeah,
Elliot draws circuitry on the wall.
I have an ET Facebook group that there are people in there who are a lot more devoted than even I am, that will track down like specific items that they had in their house, and like, because all of that stuff is just like, oh, this was a poster from the 80s, this is a coloring book from the 80s, and like they just use it in the movie. And people will track this stuff down and get like the exact thing that they had. I'm like,
they'll have like Elliot's weird snowman thing where the eyes and ears like pop out. Somebody will actually get that object. Whoa.
Yeah, so like one was like
like
the little sippy cup that Gertie has. It has like a smiley face on it. And one was like,
oh my gosh,
one was like a Halloween decoration on a door that like Keys is walking through the door and you can see this like retro Halloween decoration, like something I'd never noticed before. And they were like, yeah, I got this. And I was like, well, now that I know about it, I'm gonna get it too. But that's the next level.
I wonder if there was anything that I could get from a prop or from the house that I could get my hands on. Maybe that peanut bank. This is a peanut. You put money in the peanut. I like that part.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I've been telling myself I want to get all of the same Star Wars figures that he has in that scene.
And then do his sound effects.
Yeah. So your first experience with ET was just the book then?
Yeah. So 2 older sisters who had seen it in the theater, my mom and dad who had seen it in the theater. They obviously, like everyone on Earth, loved ET. I missed out on it for some reason. I was probably a little just under the wire.
Yeah. What do you think it was that drew you to it then, if it was just you just had this book to go by?
Yeah. Well, I think, when you're a kid, the thing that's a little unreachable is always a little tantalizing. Like, oh, it's just within my grasp, and I hear tales of it at home from my
Yeah.
family members, and I can't see it made it probably. But I was also just, and to this day, I'm just a tremendous fan of Steven Spielberg. Like I had
Yeah.
seen the Indiana Jones movies,
Mm,
and then
yeah.
all of the movies he produced that I loved, like Back to the Future and Roger Rabbit and stuff. I was just like,
Yeah.
so the fact that I wasn't seeing his and I'd seen Jaws too, of course. So the fact that I hadn't seen the biggest movie that
Yeah.
everyone else on earth got to see for that like little period from like 80 when I was conscious, like 85, 86 to when it came out, I think 89.
Yeah.
And then the way I got to see it, I'll just tell you real quick. We got it on video. I the first time I saw it was we would walk on our way to school. Um, uh, my sisters and I, and we would stop at a friend's house and pick them up, and we would continue walking to school. This sounds like I'm from like Depression era, 1930s.
You roll a circle with a stick as you go down the sidewalk.
We would have a couple phosphates and some lemony sticks, and then go off our way to schoolyard. But I walked into a house, and it was kind of like, I think it'd come out in the fall, the video. I didn't know what was playing on the TV when I first walked in.
Oh, wow.
It just had like ET running while they were getting ready for school. But I remember it was like a dark, gloomy, autumnal morning. So the house was dark, the outside was dark. And what kind of blew my mind was, outside of ET going across the moon, there just wasn't a lot of actual images moving images of ET that you could actually see. So when I came in on it, it was during that part where Elliot is bringing ET into the house and getting him like cozy with the
Yeah.
blanket and stuff.
Yep.
And they're both falling asleep together. And to see that in the morning before you go to school it's already kind of like a dreamlike state you're in as a kid. And
Yeah.
then I love that sequence in ET because it is so just like there's nothing else like it in any movie. It's just like so profound to see these two people connect and then fall asleep together.
Yeah.
But I didn't know based on anything I had seen that the movie was going to look so. We quickly got it on video and then I watched it at home, and I was just so all the stuff of like when Elliot goes in the backyard and his swing set has like these kind of weird lights on it, or when he turns the
Yeah.
sink on and the steam from the sink comes up with
Yes.
all of that stuff was the things that really knocked me out because I wasn't expecting that the suburbs, my neighborhood, they would make it look so dreamlike and cool. And then of
Yeah.
course then when I saw it I was just so knocked out. It you know very rarely do anything when you're a kid match the expectations you have or the visions you had for it. And the fact that when I got to see it on video with the
Yeah.
little green top case so it couldn't get bootlegged,
Yep.
I wore that tape out. I watched it probably then, from when I was in first or second grade when I saw it till when I left my house as a senior in high school. I probably watched that thing like 40 times. I
Wow.
loved it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That I definitely had some experiences like that where you like I'd get like a lot of like books about horror movies from my school's library because like I wasn't allowed to see those movies, but I could like
Yes.
read about like, oh, so this is how they like made Jaws, and I would like
Yeah.
get it in my head like this has got to be the scariest thing that has ever existed. Like anything you think of is like way worse than like what's actually in a movie. So when I started finally seeing like R-rated movies, I was like, oh, well, like some of this isn't that bad. I was expecting like the worst thing
Yeah.
you could possibly imagine.
That's so true when you're a kid, what you imagine to be inside the horror movie video box. What the poster and cover promises is never as good.
Yeah,
I wonder if
there's
that's partly what's like cool about like ET, and also I put along with that with Close Encounters, which I recently rewatched like last week. Was Wesley, there's nobody gets shot, nobody gets hurt, nobody bleeds. I mean,
yeah.
Elliot bleeds when he gets his finger pricked, but it gets quickly healed. Like there's such gentle movies that I wonder if it's partly like when you're a kid, of course a horror movie can't match your imagination of how gross something could be,
Yeah.
but you are kind of knocked out, and I think grown-ups are too, that something could be so sweet and gentle and kind as ET. So
Yeah.
maybe our imaginations could never match how sweet that movie could be. Yeah.
I'm not even sure I knew much about ET before I saw it. I just know
Yeah, what was your
I
experience?
it was definitely like 2002. I think I was in like second grade, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
right when that re-release was about to
Yes.
happen. But my parents, I guess, had the VHS. I don't know if we rented it or they had it, but they were like, "All right, we're gonna sit down and we'll watch it." And as soon as Elliot like sees ET in the field and like they scream at each other, I was bawling, sobbing, pause it. I don't want to watch the rest, turn it off.
Ah! Yep,
And
yep.
they were like, calm me down. And we're like, let's just keep going. I don't know how they convinced me because I was definitely a little weenie kid, but
No, no,
I
no, no.
I,
Yeah,
I continued watching and was like super into it, laughing, having a good time. And then of course, like the ending comes along and you're just like crying for a whole new reason. And you're like,
ah,
why? Like I don't think I knew that movies could make you feel that way yet. Like
yes, I
I was just
know.
like, oh, movies are like a fun time. And this
Yeah.
was like next level. And after that, I would go around saying I wanted to be a movie director, and I dressed up like Steven Spielberg for a book report in elementary school. And it
Oh
was
my gosh.
and then it was perfect
He
because it
gets
was
everybody to
2000.
fall in love with movies. He's the best. He's the best
Yeah.
guy on earth. Yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, it was 2002, so it was like perfect timing because they had like all of the merchandise in Toys R Us, and we like
Yeah.
went to New York, and they had like a huge ET section in that big Times Square Toys R Us, and I was just like over the moon, like
Oh, literally like
yeah,
Elliot
just
himself.
yeah, it was awesome.
That's really great that that lined up perfectly, because then you got to see it in the theater too, right? Or
I don't know if I saw it in the theater at that time, but I
oh,
have
but
seen
just
it
getting to
in
be
a
part of the yeah.
yeah, I've seen it in theaters a lot since then. I feel like the only time I really ever rewatch it is like, oh, it's showing at a
Hmm.
theater nearby. Like there's one in Atlanta that'll show it. It showed it on like 70 millimeter recently. We went and saw
Oh,
that. So that was fun. And just
you
like flashback movies at different places, we'll go see it whenever it's playing.
yeah. I hear tales that it's gonna be maybe re-released in IMAX this summer. Is that true?
In August 12th.
Oh man, I'm there because
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like I said, I didn't get to see it when it was originally released. I did see it in the 2002 re-release, but
Mhm.
I've never gotten to see the original 82 movie in
Wow.
a theater. I'd love. I mean, it's
It's gonna be great because they showed a trailer before Jurassic World Dominion for like the IMAX experience. So I
oh
think
cool.
they're doing it big because I know sometimes they do like the Fathom events or whatever, but this like is not that. It's like Universal made an IMAX version, and it's gonna be pretty
Amazing.
kick
That's great.
ass. I think I'm very
Yeah, yeah.
excited.
Me too. Like I said, mentioned, I have a my wife and I, we have a daughter, and
Yes, I was
she
gonna ask if she's seen it.
yes, and she loves ET. And I would say
Nice.
your story is like many. I would say half of the people who watch ET when they first see it are either like scared, freaked out, or grossed out. My brother-in-law, he's really funny. He grew up in Northridge, and you can actually see a section of his house in ET. You can see his
Wow.
kind of backyard playset treehouse top at one point
Wow.
when the older brother's driving away in the van.
That's
Um,
incredible.
but he and the crew ate um lunch like in his driveway. Like his garage was kind of used as a place where the crew would go. And
Wow.
but he, even despite all that, knowing that ET was filmed in it, he was like, I remember when I first talked to him, I'll censor how he put it, but he was like, oh, I didn't like it when I was a kid, and ET gets all cracked and white and effed up looking. Like it is, I could see that being traumatizing for a kid, but you get to the other side of it, and when you're bawling, it is like you said, you
Man.
know, most people don't have that level of catharsis or whatever it is in a
It's
movie.
like you would think you'd get sick of seeing it over and over, like, but then that third act, like when they're like, we're getting to the forest, like there's nothing more triumphant than that.
It's
that
so
ending
crazy that I can watch that movie and be like, that 5 minutes will always like find a way to make me bawl. You'd think it
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I guess it's like a good song. Hey Jude is always going to be good, and you're always going to be in the mood to like be moved by that song on some level. Yeah, with the ending being really exciting, and then I was trying to think of something you had just um mentioned. Oh yeah. When they're like, we got to get to the forest. It's like the best. Also, you just I was gonna say there's so many moments along the way where this is what you mentioned, where you cry for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw Marriage Story, but there's
Yes.
a moment when Adam Driver is walking, his character is walking out with his son, and his son goes, I cried 4 times during that movie. I listened to a Noah Baumbach interview 4 years before Marriage Story came out. He was interviewing Brian De Palma or something, and he was talking about ET, and he's like, "Oh, I just saw it with my son, and when he left, my son said, I cried 4 times during that movie." And they
Wow.
talked about the 4 points where they all cried during ET because it was the 4 points he did too.
Wow.
So that's what's being referenced, I think, in Marriage Story is ET, just so you know.
How wild is that?
But also, I do think there are 4 points where somebody can cry during ET. That is true.
At least
Yes,
four.
at least.
Yeah, man. Are you a collector at all? I know you have like a couple of action figures and stuff that I've seen you post before of little ETs.
I
You
got
get
little
a
ETs. Do you see them? I posed them once with a Jason.
yes,
Jason from Friday 13th.
I
Yes,
posted that on my ET Twitter
I
on Friday the
appreciated that.
13th. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
ET with like, or it was Jason, a big Jason with like 3 little ETs surrounded by him, like he
Yeah.
was the happy father.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it's nice too when somebody knows you like ET. People,
Yeah.
if they see something, they'll be like, I bet Paul would like this silly ET thing. So I'll collect stuff like that. The book, I have this Letters to ET book.
Yeah, that's a
That
great one.
I love because it's I'm sure you're familiar with it, but if people aren't, it's like it's such a funny hodgepodge of there's no clear direct line of what it's about because it is letters that kids write to ET thinking ET is
Yeah.
real, but it's also letters to people who want Steven Spielberg to contact ET for like, and then also, but it also includes drawings that kids included that are so
Yeah,
amazing.
I
And
have a
then these,
t-shirt that
oh,
I don't remember who made it. I wish I could remember and give him a shout out, but it's whatever the drawing is where ET's like at a party drinking some beers that someone drew, and then on the front
yeah,
it's the kid's drawing, and on the back is the letter that the kid wrote,
that
and
is a
it's
perfect shirt.
awesome.
That's great. Yeah, and then it includes these amazing illustrations, professional ones that they did, that they hired somebody for at the time that are like really cool, like illustrations of the dog with this like bandana scarf thing. That's amazing. But I think you have like this amazing collection. When did that start for you? Was that 2002?
Some of it was, yeah. So like a few of the like Toys R Us items at the time that came out then, I still have like the same ones that I got back in the day at that age. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't always display them either. Like in high school, I don't think I had like I kept everything, but that's mostly just because like I'm a hoarder. And now I'm glad I did, because now I have like all of that stuff plus like a bunch of other random stuff I've added to it. And then they really started getting crazy with it at Universal. I know we were talking about it before.
Yeah.
This one was cool. This is a picture frame, but it's based on the stage pass that the everybody in the cast and crew would have when they were filming ET. And I was like, wow, what a deep cut that
Hey,
is. Like,
I'm not shilling for Universal Studios theme parks here. This is like legit. That is some true love for movie fans.
right?
I've
That's
seen
like,
those badges before, and they on eBay, and they
yeah.
look really dope. Yeah, you said it's what the crew members used to wear to get around,
Yeah,
right?
cast and crew would have these. And I can't remember if I know anyone who owns like a real one, but I know some have like found their way on eBay, like with
Yeah,
like
I've seen
actual
decoys
people
or
still in
fakies.
there.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I can trust that, but that's cool
Yeah,
that they're
I get a
making
little
that.
nervous about that. But
But
yeah,
yes,
that's
we were
like,
discussing it before the podcast started. You were telling me because I know you
yeah.
had said you had gone there. I had said I loved how in Halloween Horror Nights they can perfectly recreate a house from a horror movie. And my wife and I, we go to those, but we've
Yeah.
gone, oh, wouldn't that be great if they put that detail to non-horror movies? Lo and behold, Leslie
Yeah.
tells me.
Yeah, the current tribute store where they like change it up every few months. It's currently retro themed. So you got a Back to the Future room, you got a Jaws room, and then first one when you walk in is the ET room, and it's all decked out like Elliot's house with like rainbow blinds and an Elvis Costello poster and like
Man.
little drawings that like Gertie signed, and it's just like super fun
The
and
rainbow blinds blows my mind.
it's
I didn't try to
crazy.
rhyme there, but I did. But because I would love those rainbow blinds. They're so
I
cool.
know. Yeah. And they have a what they call a prop shop at Universal Orlando where like when they take
Ah,
down something, they'll like put the old stuff in there and they just closed it down. And I'm like, man, they knew if they put anything from that ET room in there, I'd
yeah.
become too powerful. Like I can't have it.
Well, I got the ultimate gut punch. I moved out to Los Angeles. Yes, the ultimate gut punch. When you hear this story, you'll be like, nobody suffered as much as Paul West did in this story. But in the summer of 2004 is when I moved out to Los Angeles, and it's when they had just replaced the ET ride at Universal Studios Hollywood
Oh
with this
no.
mummy ride shenanigans, which is fine, but don't, much like Poltergeist, don't build your mummy theme park on the burial ground of my ET ride. It's going to be cursed
have
now.
have you ever gotten to go on it since then?
So in 1990, my family went to Universal Studios during the grand opening week of Universal Studios Hollywood.
Wow.
And that's the only time I ever got to go on that ET ride. Um,
Wow.
uh, and it was great because, when a theme park opens, as they've referenced in Jurassic Park, there's malfunctions. Even
Yeah.
Disneyland had problems on opening day. That
Yeah.
was the case at this Universal Studios Orlando when we were there. The King Confrontation ride didn't work. The
Oh
Jaws
yeah.
ride was down. But good God, thank Almighty, the ET ride was up and running. And so I
God
did get the
bless.
experience of smelling some funny water. I mean,
Yeah.
it was new, but I was already
I
smelling
ha-
this, like
I have
walking in and be like,
about I have about 4 candles that smell like that back there.
did
I
they
told
make it?
um
Are
before
they official?
before it was all like fan made ones because they'll make like, oh, this smells like Pirates of the Caribbean. So like there's theme park scented candles that like people will just make. But then now they have like an official Green Planet candle that you can buy at Universal Studios that I got this time around.
Oh my gosh. Well, I got to get my butt down to that Universal because I got to
I
ride that ET ride again. I'm
Yep.
heartbroken that I've only rode it once.
I highly recommend. Like I think I don't know for sure when they're changing that tribute store to Horror Nights themed, but probably like August, September, I would guess.
Okay. I
It's
got to
it's it's gonna be prepare to spend a lot of money. It's rough.
I know it's
But
so
it
funny. You can just tell the level at which a company recognizes a fan base's how deep their pockets will go to pay for something by the level of the amount of times it will be re-released on a new format with the most
yeah.
minor of additional special features to get you to buy it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I love all of those special features and stuff on the
Yeah.
stuff. They're glorious.
Well, yeah, you talked about it on Love. They have special features, you bitch.
That came from Judd Apatow recognized I had a deep love for my physical media like Blu-rays, and he was like, "We should make a funny scene about how your obsession with Blu-rays and how you wouldn't want anybody to get rid of them." I
That
must have
sounds
given some impassioned plea about like I have to keep them because there's special features on there that Netflix and iTunes don't have.
which they should. It's kind of crazy. Like there's no reason not to.
Criterion, they know what's up on their app. They do have
Oh yeah.
their and iTunes seems to be getting around it, but there's special features on laser discs that never
Wow.
came over to DVD. So if somebody
Yeah.
saved their ET laser disc, they have those the deleted or the ending when the camera starts to crane through the window and the Elliot and his friends are playing a game and he gets to be dungeon master. That's
That's
like on the laser disc.
you're kidding me.
Yeah,
That
so like
I had
there's a
heard about
reason
that.
to hold on to that stuff. Yeah.
I'd heard about that scene, but I thought that was like scrapped, like never filmed. I didn't realize that that
Oh,
exists somewhere.
yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
I gotta get me a laser disc player
I
and a laser disc.
know. And I still have that similar to that. I have that like square blue box flap with a ribbon down the center for the 20th anniversary. That was like a
Oh
DVD
yeah,
release.
that
Yeah.
that was like a big I want to say birthday present for me back in the day,
Yep.
and I still have that. That
Good.
has like a film cell in it and
Yep.
a book and everything. It's
Uh-huh.
awesome.
I love it. I love
Um,
it.
speaking of books, have you ever read the Book of the Green Planet? They did like a sequel, like a weird sequel that's like half Elliot after ET went home and half like ET's planet, and it's where they kind of pulled a lot of the stuff for the ride from, like Botanicus, ET's teacher, and all of that.
I
They
love
talked about it on,
Botanicus.
yeah, they talked about it on podcast The Ride, I know. On
Yes, those
they
boys
did,
are great. If
yeah.
anybody, there's many connecting tissue here with what we've talked about and podcast the ride, so people should
Yeah.
check out the podcast.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I see. Now I've never read that book. I knew it existed, and I knew
Mhm.
that a lot of it was about ET's adventures on his planet.
It's a
I
lot
did
of weird.
not know, Wesley, that it also Elliot's story that you find out what happens to him after very interesting.
Yeah, I can
You could actually get me to
remember.
maybe read it.
It's pretty wild, and there's several versions. Like there's a storybook version that has like cool pictures, and then there's like a straight up novel, and I think one of them may edit out stuff like penis breath gets referenced again and stuff like that. But it's pretty wild, and it's wild
I
that they pulled that like from that for the ride.
yes, yeah, that they were like, this is the text. Botanicus, we must reference him.
my
Uh
my fiance said she heard people on the ride this past time when we went, because you go through like basically the getting away from the cop stuff, and then you kind of fly into ET's planet, and the people next to her apparently were like, was this in the movie? I don't remember this in the movie.
I mean, all that stuff is really intriguing at the beginning when he's bringing plants onto his spaceship and you see like that one that has like a
Yeah,
mouth and stuff. It is
yeah.
cool.
that that's one thing that I forgot lasts as long as it does. Like upon like a recent rewatch, I was like, oh, we really like spend a little bit of time with like all of the ETs kind of like collecting and like
It's
see little bits
true.
of spaceship. I was like, man, they show
Yeah.
a little bit there.
And what's nice about these subsequent they when they do re-release them and the clarity gets better, you get to see a little bit more of the detail of what's going on in that spaceship, and that is cool. The when you mentioned uh your fiance, congratulations,
Oh well, thank
Wesley.
you.
That's nice. My wife, I could very easily see her and I going on the ET ride and her telling me later what she overheard the people on the ET. She'd be like, "Oh, it's so funny." They, but this just because I'm mentioning my wife, my favorite movie. If somebody asks me what my favorite movie is, I say ET the Extraterrestrial.
No
Um,
way. Wow.
and if somebody asked her what her favorite movie was, and this was before we met each other, she would say Poltergeist. Now,
Wow.
now I could easily say ET and Shampoo. I really like, and she says, uh, 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 a Poltergeist and Boogie Nights. But Poltergeist, came out 1 week before ET came out, and they make the perfect double feature because they're the exact, like, they exist in the same neighborhood essentially. But
Yeah.
my wife and I and she loves ET. I love Poltergeist. We do have this kind of perfect yin and yang of like we cover both
Yeah.
sides, ET and Poltergeist of the Northridge community of the San Fernando Valley. Yeah.
There's like a lot of connections with it too, because I think wasn't Drew Barrymore supposed to be in Poltergeist, and then they were like, no, let's put you in ET. And then
Yes.
have you ever seen those pictures of the kids from both movies like walking down the street with Steven Spielberg?
I have not. That's cool. I'd check that
Yeah,
out. Oh, neat.
Robert McNaughton was telling me, I think the ET guys were maybe like recording, like doing some dubbing, and they were like, let's get out there and we'll take some pictures, and
Wow.
it's pretty awesome.
I wonder if that was around the because I've gone living in Los Angeles. I've gone and visited all the ET filming locations
Oh, you
again.
have. I was gonna ask. So you've seen like the
Yeah.
house and
Yeah.
trying to think. There's probably the school.
The school, the playground where they go.
Yes,
And that's
I've heard they're trying to rename it too. They're trying to name it ET Park now.
that is so funny because that's where my brother-in-law lives, and it's colloquially known as ET Park. Like
Wow.
everybody just goes, okay, so then you turn a corner at ET Park, or let's meet at ET Park. Like I'm glad they're
Wow.
gonna officially call it that because that's what everybody
I,
calls it.
I I don't know if they've officially done it yet, but I know there's like push for it, and I'm like, man,
Great.
please, that would be awesome.
Well, it's cool, and it's in such a Spielbergy neck of the woods. You feel like you're in a
Yeah.
Spielberg movie when you go there. And then we did visit the Poltergeist location, and
Wow.
it kind of is indicative of the spirits of each movie. The Poltergeist people do not like people going by there. They made
I
that very clear.
I've heard whoever the guy is that owns the ET house is pretty nice, because I know quite a few people who are like wilder than me, who this one guy has a picture of him and the guy who owns the house just like by the pool that's behind the house, and I was like, did you just knock on the door and say hey, can I
That's
come in? I
Oh
don't
my
know how it
gosh.
happens.
I wish I could because that's so tantalizing because I know they shot this stuff in the house in the backyard, like on stages. So I
Yeah.
wish I could know what the actual layout of the house is and how it
Yeah.
matches if it does match the
I,
fictional house.
I'm so stupid. I was like, when I was talking to Dee Wallace, she's the one who told me like, oh no, that's not the inside of the house. That's like that was all on sound stages. And I was like, oh yes, of course, yes.
You're not stupid. It speaks to the that movie is so well crafted that all of that stuff is really invisible. The fact that like you could watch that movie 100 times before you go like, oh, I think that backyard isn't real. It's so cool. It's like
Yeah,
all dark and
I,
misty.
I don't think there's cornfields growing in California backyards like that.
Well, I love that it's an Iowa kid because I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
corn could be everywhere.
Oh,
Also, when you just mentioned the follow up to with the book ET, that it kind of continues the adventures.
yeah.
Three quick things about ET sequels. One, when I was a kid, I imagined my own ET sequel, which
Wow.
all it really was I bet if ET's spaceship ever flew over Earth again, it would start to shake. This was my science. It would start to shake because it recognizes it's been here before. This is like a 8-year-old trying to come up with a new ET sequel. It would shake so much that ET would be shaken out of the spaceship. He falls and lands back in Elliot's, backyard, and now Elliot's, a teenager in high school. That was my idea.
And they just have to do the whole thing again.
Yeah. Well, God, this is such a good idea. We never thought about how the spaceship would shake, Mr. Russ. Thank you for pitching this.
Tell us more about how much it would shake.
The other thing is, have you read that script Treatment for ET2
Yeah,
Nocturnal
nocturnal
Fears?
fears. Yeah. With like white albino looking ETs with like
Ah!
red eyes, and like
What is up with
it's
that?
just like a snuff film. It just sounds like they're like, okay, so these aliens will torture the kids that we all love, and then ET will come in at the end and save the day. I was like,
Yeah. Elliot
what?
and ET are hardly ever together, and most of it is an evil ET trapping kids in kind of like a laser cage where they can't get out. They're like
Yeah.
crying all the time.
Yeah, you know how cute and lovable Drew Barrymore is? Let's just torture the hell out of her. And it's funny because that's like how ET started, was like, oh, we're gonna do like a scary alien thing, and then they were like,
Right.
what if not scary? And then they go right back around to the scary.
Yeah,
So
and it's nice because then you think about how in War of the Worlds, that Tim Robbins section where they're in a house all alone and there's aliens, there's a threat of aliens outside and they're abandoned
mhm.
in this house. That sounds like the original John Sayles script that he wanted to write about this what you're referencing, where it's a
Oh yeah,
family
yeah,
of
yeah.
aliens. And then that kind of shot off to what if we make the aliens gentle? And then I think some of the residual stuff went into Gremlins, like the idea of like little
Yeah.
vicious critters. But uh uh
Oh yeah, you had two other
oh,
sequel ideas, you said.
oh, the third thing was in college, I wrote a sketch. This isn't like a dude, I'm gonna tell you about a really funny thing I did. It was more it speaks to my like how much I wish this would true. It was a sketch where Ellie ET never got back up on the spaceship. And he just decides to continue living with Elliot, but the sketch is about like, you know, people do grow up and move on. And so Elliot's kind of like, so ET, when do you think you'll maybe like go back home? And ET's like, can I hang out with your friends tonight? Oh, Elliot or oh, ET, you know what? We just the car only has like a space for 5 dudes. We got 5 dudes. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I get it. I get it. You have fun, Elliot. It does seem like it was probably best for ET to get up on that spaceship and leave at the end, right?
It's funny that you say that, because when I was looking up ET references, the Robot Chicken has a sketch that's kind of the opposite of that, where
Oh.
ET says like, come with me, and he says, no, I gotta stay. This one, he's like, okay, I will. And then it's like, oh, I was just kind of like extending the offer. I didn't actually like mean it.
That's funny.
It's
ET gets to be the stinker.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you're kind of ahead of the game there. It's funny that you mentioned sequels, because that was as a somebody who has written a sequel, a Peewee sequel, I was going to ask you, like, if somebody came to you and was like, hey, we're making an ET sequel, what do you got? we're making it whether you want to or not. Like, is
I
there
would that well, you know, I think that commercial did a pretty good job of giving me whatever I want
yeah.
in a ET sequel without having to feel like, oh, I went and paid $15 to see this on opening night. I was kind of slightly disappointed. Like an actual just kind of short film commercial was pretty good.
Yeah, I loved that a lot, and I love that they did practical effects and everything. Like,
Yeah.
it looked really good, and they really did their homework with like cool references in there and
Yeah.
everything. They have like Mary's license plate in the garage somewhere and
Oh, I
stuff
didn't
like
see
that.
that.
Yeah,
And it continues the spirit of ET, which is when I would try to describe the commercial to people, I would start getting choked up. Like,
yeah.
like, and then you know that they'll still be friends. Uh, the little hidden Easter eggs. I do not want to toot my own horn here, but I think I was the first to spot the photo of the dad on the wall in
Oh,
ET. Now I
in the actual movie ET.
yeah, when Gertie's going and taking the wagon with the sunflower to Elliot's room,
Yeah.
the camera just quickly just
Hmm.
catches a corner of a picture of Dee Wallace with her husband, who looks like it would be the children's father.
Is it her
Um,
actual husband? Do you know?
ooh, I do
Because
not know.
somebody posted this in my group a while back, and everybody was like, okay, who is the guy? We got to figure out who the guy is. And
Yeah,
I wish
because
I'd known about it before I talked to D Wallace, because I would have said, who's the guy?
I posted it a few years ago when I saw it, and then I like scoured the internet to see if anybody had like confirmation. This Facebook group sounds amazing though. If people are ahead of this and now trying to figure out who that guy is, I'd love to know who that dude is.
It was a while back, so I don't know if anybody cracked the case, but it is
I'll be
pretty
honest, I'm
wild.
really like my face is getting red and I'm so embarrassed that I like was at that moment being like, I think I might have been the first to. I'm
You might
feeling
have
the
been.
shame. I'm feeling that shame right now. I'll just
No,
be.
no, depending what it
I'll
was,
admit
you might have been. I still think that I'm the first one to.
it.
I was in high school watching Batman reruns, Batman 66 reruns, and there's one where the Joker has like a mask and he takes it off, and the mask he's wearing looks just like the bank robber mask that he wears in The Dark Knight. And I remember making like a Facebook note when that was a thing and being like, look at this versus this. And then now you'll see some people will post that every now and then, like,
And you were
oh,
right.
look at
I think
these
you were right. That's
comparisons.
cool.
And I'm like, I was the first though, probably.
Oh, like that's perfect. I love it.
Almost definitely wasn't, but
We
it's
can all
nice to
believe
think.
that though.
Yeah.
I'll believe it.
Um, so ET references, I know
Yes.
in Peewees Big Holiday, which you wrote, it starts off with like a very prolonged ET reference. And I wanted to ask you about how, first of all, like how cool is it like writing a Pee-wee movie with Paul Rubens, but also like how did this ET reference end up opening the movie?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Paul Rubens is a huge ET fan. And when I first went over to his home, when we started writing the movie together, and Paul and I were assigned together through Judd Apatow, who was producing the Pee Wee movie, and
Mhm.
so Paul and I began as co-writers and collaborators, but now we're friends. And Paul, he went to my wedding. He's a dear
Oh
friend.
my God.
He's like I'm so grateful I have a friend like that here in
That's
Los
incredible.
Angeles.
Yeah.
But he uh, uh uh when I went over to his house for the first time, he had a lot of like ET merchandise around,
Wow.
and we started talking about it. He was like, "Oh, I love ET. ET is a perfect film. I was really obsessed with it." And then I, I think when we put that scene in the movie, it was definitely like, I mean, I think without us talking about it too much, I think probably what Paul and I were really jazzed about with ET the movie is how just how sweet and um loving it is. I will quickly say, these baby boomers, they get a bad rap because they kind of, they were hippies and then they sold out their hippie ideals,
Yeah.
and then became a-holes. Uh but I will say, I think Steven Spielberg is like one of the few filmmakers who was really trying to fight trying to make the hippie dream come alive, particularly with Close Encounters of ET, of making movies that they're trying to turn the world toward love and openness. It's really, really cool. No movies ever do
Yeah.
this, and they're too scared to stick their chin out because it'll be seen as like cornball or overly sentimental.
Hmm.
But uh the the op- the opposite is the norm. It is so more easy in this world to make mean-spirited, like jaded products.
Yeah.
And the fact that like I love that Steven Spielberg told like a very personal story about his childhood, and then beyond personal into that, about a divorce in a family and how it affects a family.
Yeah.
This like incredibly personal story just also happened to be the #1 highest grossing movie on planet Earth. Like that never existed before. Gone with the Wind wasn't a personal project. It was like somebody adapted a big best-selling novel, and it
Yeah.
hasn't happened since. I don't think Titanic is really like a story about how James Cameron, the first time he fell in love and fell out of love. He's just telling a love story. Like,
I think he was more just like, oh man, I freaking love boats. I love
yes,
huge boats.
I love huge boats, and I want to freaking just sink this huge boat.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Paul, who I also really see as somebody who grew up as a hippie and then was like, hey, I'm gonna put my art where my mouth is or whatever, and actually try to make stuff that's lives up to those ideals in a way. Um I think that's probably why we really love ET as an entertainment. And so when we and Pee-wee movies are all about sincerity, and they're not like ever being about kind of this snotty ironic distance.
Yeah.
And so I think when we were trying to think of a way to start off this ET movie, the Pee-wee movie, we were like, it kind of just automatically sets this like vibe of like, I mean, Paul is crying in that opening scene in Pee-wee's Big Holiday, real tears.
He's really delivering it. It's like
Yeah. And I think what it happens is when you watch the movie, it does sort of like present you with earnestness and like sincerity in a non kind of ironic way. And maybe that's probably what we were biting from ET is its sincerity we really like. Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to open because I was looking at the comments on it on YouTube today, and people were like, when this started, I was like, what the hell? What's going on? Like,
It is a
it's
little like strange
very
that it is like it's opening with the ending of ET.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't like quite make sense with if
And I think it's funny that it's like almost like we missed a whole like Pee-wee movie. Like they had this huge adventure, and we're like, "Oh, I
yeah.
guess that happened. That happened off screen. They're
I would have
hanging
loved
out.
to have seen that movie where ET I'm sure, Paul and I sat down and we like somewhere there exists a 25-page document of every Pee-wee idea we wanted to do.
Oh wow.
And I'm sure one of those was a movie that was just fully an alien visits Pee-wee. And
Pee-wee, Pee-wee T.
yeah, clearly I'm having a hard time saying all these names because they're so Peewee ET, TT Wee Wee. Uh, um,
It's
but
honestly surprising that there was never a Pee-wee and ET crossover like back in the 80s, like a photo shoot or something.
I know because you get those glorious Michael Jackson photos where his like ET's arms are
Yes.
around him and stuff. So I would love it with Pee-wee.
Yeah.
And when we get later when we discuss the references, there is a ET reference in Pee-wee's Big Adventure that I'll share with you.
Yes, you mentioned that, and I
Um,
was surprised. It's been a while since I watched Big Adventure, but that's a great one.
when you said it's been a it sounded like the Led Zeppelin song. It's been a long time since I rock and roll, but it might as well be. It's been a long time since I watched a Big Adventure. Sorry,
No, you're good.
but the Alien I also liked. And I was just the writer. I wrote it, and then everybody else executed it and made it real. I was there the day on set at Griffith Park when they shot that scene that night.
Nice. I was gonna ask because it seems like a lot of puppetry, but then like Yule's mouth seems like real mouth. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm right about that though.
No, it's all practical, physical, including the mouth, and it I guess it was just sort of latter day at that point puppeteering that was like pulling that off. Um, and it was neat that night. They had like a big overhead light to beam down light for the UFO and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm just remembering this as I'm sharing it with you. Uh, there was a outdoor screening, and we were talking about our imaginations for horror movies when we were kids.
Uh-huh.
They were showing an outdoor screening of The Exorcist on the other side of
Wow.
the hill, and occasionally we would hear collective scream from people watching The Exorcist. So like
Oh
we'd
my
be shooting
God.
a scene and out of nowhere there'd be like a ah!
That's fun.
Yeah. What was going on the other side of that hill?
I was gonna say, if you listen closely, can you hear like some tubular bells
Yeah.
in Peewee? That's awesome. That's awesome that he's such a fan.
We also had to do the one last thing I'll share about that. We had to work it out later in after we recorded the scene to make it clear that the alien's name was Yule and not Yule. Like it
Yeah.
sounded like he was saying you will.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so years later I'm watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in theaters, and Leonardo DiCaprio's character, he's putting his face in ice, his hand is all wet, and he shakes the director's hand, and the director goes, he says, sorry about the wet hand, and the director goes, it's okay, I'm used to it with you. And I'm like, used to it with you? I guess they've worked together, and I start building this whole story in my mind. Then I get that book, the novelization for the movie of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and the director says, it's okay, I'm used to it with Yule. And I guess it must mean Yule Brenner. But I'm like,
Oh,
this
wow.
you versus Yule problem is gonna curse the whole industry.
I know that's gonna come up in like some bad way, like something like detrimental.
It'll be in like a very forget movies, it'll be in a very important like document.
Yeah.
And there'll be a misunderstanding between you and Yule, and it'll tear up the fabric of society.
Did you guys have to do anything as far as the way that Yule looked in Peewee? Like, hey, it looks too much like ET, we gotta change it. Like, was there anything like copyright wise that you had to be like diligent about?
No, we probably were. We were probably like, let's make him more purple than sausage toned.
Yeah.
But one of the producers, production managers, there was this guy. His name is Richard Vane, but I do think he goes by the name Dick Vane. Don't laugh, that's his name. But he was a very wonderful man. He worked on a lot of Spielberg movies, including ET. So it was like when he was there, I felt like if we had been overstepping any bounds, he would have like picked up the red phone. Yeah.
Man, let's dive into some ET references here. I know we could probably talk about ET stuff all day. My fiance, I know, gets sick of hearing me geek out. Like a friend was over the other day and I was like, man, I heard the other day that Spielberg would like be editing Jurassic Park at night and then be like filming Schindler's List during the day. Like, what a crazy run. And she's like, all right, we know he's the best. We get it.
Oh yeah, I know. The amount of partners who have like been very patient listening to their other partners discuss Spielberg. I'm sure there's many.
Yeah.
But when you do find somebody who likes talking ET or likes talking Spielberg, oh, it's the buddy for life.
Yeah, for sure. So with the ET references here, I know I messaged you and was like, all right, well, I'm thinking we will go one by one, sort of. We could also just kind of talk about some of them, but I'm thinking we'll rank them out of 5 Reese's Pieces.
That's great.
So 1 through 5 about how good the reference is. And
I thought this was such a great idea too when you suggested this of us going through references about ET in other movies. It's so great. I love it.
I didn't realize what an undertaking it would be because I'm like scrolling through and it's like so many like on that IMDb connections page, and then so many that are just like characters ride by the moon on a bike. I'm like, we can only rank so many characters flying by on a bike, but I think we pulled some good ones.
Yeah, there can be only so many times you mention that there's an ET poster on Dawson's bedroom wall in Dawson's Creek.
I like how there was every episode was like any episode where it shows up, it's mentioned in there. So whoever's running
Very
the connections
diligent.
page is
They
a
would be
real
like
one.
a monologue joke from Johnny Carson in 1986. It was like, whoa. They really
Yeah,
care.
I tried my best to find a lot of these because they will have like specific episode titles, but it's it can be tricky, like scrubbing through. I'm just like scrubbing through for any like instance of a bike showing up. But what do you think, like as far as our ratings go, what do you
I love
think
one
like
to five
makes
Reese's
a
Pieces.
oh yeah, but what
Yeah.
do you think makes like a good ET reference? Like what would our
Ooh.
criteria be? I was kind of thinking about it
Ooh, that's a good question.
because
I
I feel like
yeah.
deep cuts are bonus points for sure. Like if it's
Mm-hmm.
anything above like a bike or someone saying phone home, then
Yep.
it automatically gets more points.
Yep. And I think a good reference of any kind is something that for a fan, they love the wink,
Yeah,
but for a regular viewer, it's not a
distraction.
distraction.
Yeah.
And it could even if they don't get the reference, they might just enjoy it. I think that
Hmm.
that's also a good criteria. But yeah, when it's just like that thing went across the moon and it kind of looked like that is yeah, maybe
there
not
were
as
there were a
good.
few in there that I was like, I don't know if this is actually an ET reference where they're like, oh, so and so was wearing a blanket like ET, and would look at it and I'm like, well, I guess sort of. I don't know if that was
I know I
intentional.
saw a couple of those too. It was like somebody's wearing a red hoodie like Elliot. I'm like, I think red hoodies are pretty popular.
That's one of my favorite bits with my fiance. If we're watching something and there's just like a full moon and it's just regular full moon, nothing referential, I'm like, oh my god, an ET reference. She's like, stop.
That's
That's my
funny.
favorite.
That's really
Um,
funny.
wow. So where should we start? There's so many here that
Yeah.
I know.
Um,
Oh, we could start with one that you put me onto. I have never seen Airplane 2. I've only
yes.
seen Airplane 1. And there is a extended reference to ET in
Yeah,
there.
there is, and it's very funny, Wesley. I'm glad you got to see it now.
I'll share it and we can
Perfect.
watch it if I can figure out how to do so.
I will say
Yeah.
yes, this is the first when you mentioned this that we would be doing the ET references. This little spoofy scene in Airplane 2 was the first thing that came to my mind.
All right, let's take a look.
Oh, thank you for collecting these.
Oh yeah, I got as many as I could.
Operator, can I help you?
Phone home. Phone home.
Please deposit $6 million for the first 3 minutes.
So there's a little ET hand reaching up to a phone, to a payphone,
Yeah.
and then, in the cheapest way possible. They're not gonna try to recreate ET's head or anything. It's just
Yeah, just the arm.
a toy store arm that they bought,
Yeah.
and I'm a little. I mean, obviously, I love that reference. That's why I brought it up. I do wish there was like a little button at the end where it was like when she goes like, $6 million, and he goes, something like, "No way, Jose," or whatever.
Yeah.
Let ET
That-
have one more line.
Is there I'm assuming there's no even like build up to that scene. It's just like a random like cutaway gag.
Yep, like any good spoof movie, it just puts the brakes on the story for a bit so you can go over to this payphone. And I guess in this universe, ET is walking around and trying to reaches home with a payphone at an airport.
That's a pretty good one. How many
Yeah, I love
Reese's
that.
Pieces would you give that? Is that a five? Five for you?
That's a 5, and also that came out I think in December '82. So
Whoa. So quick
within
on
6
it.
months, they were quick on it. So I think that also bonus
Yeah.
pieces to they earned
That's
their 5th Reese's Pieces by being timely.
that's definitely bonus pieces because I know the more recent spoof movies, they don't really do them too much nowadays, but I would remember like going to see those in middle school. I'm like, Borat came out like a few years ago, and we're still
Oh,
doing this.
I mean, I have such a place in my heart for the spoof movies, how dumb they are. Like, and how they'll refer like Scary Movie 2 has a reference to this very specific Nike commercial about when people would move and make a kind of a squeaking sound that would sound like a song.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that it was not enough of a cultural moment that Scary Movie 2 really had to like, put
What
it
about
the
what
target.
about what about Disaster Movie doing a spoof of I'm effing Matt Damon, the Sarah Silverman song?
That is those spoof movies are most embarrassing when they're referencing other comedy, like I'm effing Matt
Yeah.
Damon, or they do a Lazy Sunday spoof with Jack Sparrow.
Yeah. Those turn
Well,
into
that
just like a guy comes out dressed like the Thing, and you're like, oh my god.
they get so lazy by the end. It'll just be like one of the Spartans comes out and just goes,
Yeah.
"Blimey!" Like, did he say that? I don't know.
Me and a buddy in middle school, this is so like immature and lame, but like this is like middle school brain. We had
Sure.
like a deal where we were like, all right, we gotta go see all the spoof movies together in theaters, and if one of us goes to see it without the other gets to kick him in the balls. And we would go and see all of them. Like our parents would drop us off and be like, all right, have fun with this shit.
Yep. I saw all. You had the excuse you were in middle school, man.
Yeah.
I was in my late 20s and I was going out and seeing all these spoof movies.
Oh man. Oh gosh. So that could be a whole
That's a
nother
good one.
podcast. Is the spoof movie.
I know that should be its own podcast. The spoof movie appreciators, spoof movie enthusiasts.
Yes.
But yeah, Airplane 2, a glorious, one of the very first of the disappointing spoof movies.
Yeah, I think they.
If you loved Airplane, you'll like Airplane 2.
I will say, Scary Movie 3 when Leslie Nielsen comes back, pretty good.
It is. I know
That's
it's good.
one of my favorite ones.
I saw it. It makes me laugh really hard too, but I love what the Wayans brothers did with the first two Scary movies, and I feel like they got robbed there a bit when
True.
the
Yeah.
Zucker brothers came in, and then they start bringing in Leslie Nielsen, which is great, but that's a ringer. That's a guy who's gonna come in and he's gonna score. But the Wayans brothers couldn't bring in okay. I'll save that for the spoof movie podcast.
Yeah, we'll get on that.
But I hear you. I know a lot of people are like, Scary Movie 3 is the dark horse, like really great spoof movie that
really
was
good.
made in the last 20 years. For me, I watched Hot Shots Part 2 recently, and joke for joke, that was like firing on all cylinders. So check out Hot Shots Part 2 if you can.
So we got 5 Reese's Pieces for Airplane 2. I feel like we're just gonna give 5 Reese's Pieces to everything.
So we can eat them.
Yeah, we'll have plenty afterwards.
Yeah.
Here's one that I like. We don't have to show the clip, but Shrek 2 has a very good reference, I think, with that's another one where the end like sequence when they're all like trying to get to the castle is very triumphant for me. I love it a lot. And so they go and make Mongo, the giant gingerbread man, to get him there. And as he's sinking, he says to Gingy, "Be good." And that was, I feel like, one of the first instances as a kid where I was like picking up on references, and I was I thought I was so cool because I'm like,
I bet you locked into that full. You're like, I know what this is. This is funny.
Yeah. All these other kids just think he's saying "be good." I know what it's from.
They'll probably give me a prize after I step out of the movie. I saw Shrek 2 because my niece, who's probably your age, I took her to Shrek 2, and that ending climax is so good. You're right.
Yeah.
I've shared this story on my podcast with Gorley and Rust, but so if anybody's heard this, I apologize. But when I was sitting in the theater for Shrek 2, I was in college. So I was not the main demographic for Shrek movies by any means. Like a 21-year-old and like an 85-year-old, they're the two least likely people to pay a ticket to go and see Shrek 2 on opening weekend. But I was there, and I love Donkey so much. He cracks me up so much. And I remember, this rarely happens when you watch movies. Usually when they're wrapping up, you're kind of like, okay, I'm ready for it to wrap up. I want to get home. I'm glad this movie is going to be, even if you love the movie, you're like, I'm ready for it to be over. When I realized the movie was wrapping up, and Donkey, each time he would make a joke, I was like, this is going to be like one of the last Donkey jokes I get until the next Shrek movie. This is insane. I got to cherish each morsel. He made one joke that just knocked me out. It like made me alternately happy and sad, because I was like, I'm so happy, but I'm sad that this is going to be one of the last Donkey jokes I'll get for a while.
I know. And now we've been without Donkey jokes for like, feels like a decade. I don't know how long it's been.
There's been a hunger for, speaking of Universal Studios, remember the Donkey talking Donkey waffle stand?
Yes.
Animatronic character?
Yes. I don't know if they still have that, because they just got rid of Shrek 4D at Universal Orlando last year.
Because last time I went to Halloween Horror Nights, they were using the talking donkey stand to like hold merchandise.
It
was totally past its prime.
Hopefully he's not still in there, just like with t-shirts on top of him. Poor Donkey. That bums me out so bad that I guess Minions is more popular. I don't know, but I feel like Shrek deserves like its own like dark ride at Universal, or like its own land. Like
they're ruthless. They're a little ruthless with their properties, and I don't know if it's because they have to like pay for them to re-up a contract, and they don't want to do that. But like, people love Shrek 4D. That's a great
yeah. I would love to see them go all in on the Shrek stuff again, but I guess it's you got to think about it. Kids keep getting born, and no Shrek movies. They don't know about it. I guess I don't know.
I guess that would be like if in the 80s I was going to Universal Studios and they had like a ride for like the 1950s movie, The Greatest Show on Earth. I'm like, okay, I guess go to this ride that my parents they liked it. This movie they saw when they were kids.
Yeah, there's not as much of that there now. Like they used to have like, this is how they make an episode of Murder, She Wrote. And now it's like,
well, when I was there for opening day, I was there at this Hitchcock thing that was really cool.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen that.
And
that's awesome.
The Murder, She Wrote one I remember was really cool. I mean, the Shrek 4D, the Shrek vibe just fits with Universal Studios too, because their whole thing is kind of like, hey, we're a little snotty, a little sassy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're kind of making fun of the other stuff. Yeah.
But I guess kids like their Minions. I took my daughter to the Secret Life of Pets ride and the Minions ride, and she flipped out. So it is true. Kids do like the imagination or Illumination Studios stuff. Yeah.
Oh, what are we giving old Mongo though in Shrek 2?
I feel like that a 4.
Yeah, that seems fair. I probably have a little too much nostalgia for it. I'd probably say 5, but
you give it 5. I want you to give it 5.
I feel like Be Good is a little deeper of a cut than some things. I mean, it's not that deep of a cut, but
no, it's good, and
more so than Phone Home.
And he's not, because Phone Home people just drop in all the time, whether if just a phone is in the vicinity. What's funny about that scene is he is going away, like ET's going away, and so to say "Be Good" as your final words, it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, like thematically, it's like they're using it the same way they use it in the movie.
Yeah,
it really works, and it kind of makes you emotional. Like you've seen this cookie for like all of probably like 2 or 3 minutes, and just him saying that, it has me like
a gut punch.
Poor guy.
Yeah. He taught us so much.
Yeah.
Love each other.
The new Chip and Dale movie Rescue Rangers has an ET reference
Yes, it
that
did.
I know you have you watched the full movie?
I did. I loved the Rescue Rangers movie.
Yeah, I thought it was a blast. It was different than I expected because it kind of doesn't feel like the same like Roger Rabbit Toontown, but it feels like like what it would be like today if they making a Roger Rabbit reboot without making a Roger Rabbit reboot.
Without a doubt, it was as much a Rescue Rangers Disney properties tribute movie as it was a Roger Rabbit tribute movie. Because I was just telling my wife this last night about the videos I had that I would watch religiously. It was ET, Back to the Future 2, Roger Rabbit, Death Becomes Her. But what were we just talking about?
Rescue Rangers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will watch Roger Rabbit all the time. That was one of the tapes I wore out. And there's specific scenes that like there's a part where one of the Rescue Rangers comes home and the sun is kind of setting in his office house. And it's like the same scene as when Eddie comes back to his office and stuff.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
A very funny ET reference in that, though. Yes.
Yeah. And that was the first thing I heard about it because, of course, everyone's like blowing me up like, oh, my God, E.T. is in the Rescue Rangers movie. And I'm like, what? How? What is happening? And I think, tell me what you think, but I'm assuming this is under like parody law, like a kind of like, I'm assuming they did not get permission to use E.T. in this. And it's just like a parody, like the same way that Family Guy might have E.T. come out. I'm assuming it's like a similar situation.
Yes, because those are two huge properties, Batman and ET, that are neither owned by the Disney Corporation.
Yeah, and I think somebody told me that in the credits it doesn't credit like Universal and ET or anything like that. So I'm wondering if there's like some sketchiness there. I might docket some Reese's Pieces for that. Illegal ET usage.
Akiva Schaffer, who directed that movie, who I think is just like, without a doubt, the most like talented comedy filmmaker.
He's
today.
Awesome.
He just fires on all cylinders, makes really not just super funny comedies, but just like crafted like a true filmmaker crafts it. It's really impressive. But he does a Spielberg cameo reference in that where there's a scene that kind of emulates the moment in Roger Rabbit where cut, it's like I think they're shooting a bootleg, and Akiva is dressed as like Steven Spielberg with kind of like the cap and the long hair.
No way.
I'm assuming because he's been in Lonely Island videos where they make jokes about like another ET. And
they did a Laser Cats with Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's maybe they're friendly, and you could just kind of gently say, "Hey, could I put a funny little ET thing in there?" And Spielberg, a good-hearted guy, probably says, "Okay, go for it."
I do wonder why they went with ET versus Batman. I think it's maybe just because it's just like the most outrageous thing you could think of, like what will they do next? Like
like the grittiest, sort of darkest, most popular character, Batman, and then the like sweetest. Like, I can't imagine E.T. ever raising a fist to anybody, a hand, let alone a finger.
A glowing finger.
Yeah, he uses his glowing fingers to heal, not to hurt.
I like that we get to see part of the movie as well, because that was always like a big thing for me as a kid. Like if they're like, we're making a movie or we're gonna put on a play, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see it. And like sometimes they don't pay it off, and you're like, I want to see what that would be like.
I know. It's always a rip off.
So I would give Rescue Rangers maybe like 4.
Yeah, I'll give that a 4. That's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I have a few. I'm not even gonna play these Family Guy jokes. I don't know if you've seen.
Oh, hit me with them.
Oh, they're bad. They're like.
I I've watched all their Star Wars. I'm not a huge Family Guy fan, but I do love their spoofs of the Star Wars movies. And my aforementioned niece and I, we really love watching those Family Guy spoof movies because you can tell they're fans, and all of that stuff is just coming from a real just such love for getting to make Star Wars jokes. So I'm curious about the ET jokes because I feel like maybe they're do they come from a place of fandom, or are they like
I'm gonna go ahead and
ET
say
had
no.
a penis?
I'm gonna go ahead and say they're pretty mean spirited. I will say
okay.
Oh, you know what? I don't know if I shared my sound. Is my sound coming through?
That. Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay. I will say
so
this.
These are multiple references.
Yeah, I will say this first one is good. After that, I may be cutting these out.
Okay.
They're all ready.
Oh my God! The government is here! Run, E.T., run!
Oh, God.
Ouch.
Oh, God.
Together we're hotter than walking on water. We walk on air.
Ouch.
We now return to P.E.T.
Don't you need to phone home?
Nah, I'll do it later.
We now return to S.T., the special terrestrial.
Hi!
Ooh.
Tom Hanks and E.T. in Philadelphia.
Yeah, these are rough.
Ouch. There you go. You're good.
You didn't touch me.
I don't want to get AIDS.
Yeah.
Wow.
See,
that
those
kind of
take
was on that slowly ramped up its awfulness. It started with the most gentle and then got worse.
I don't know who made this montage, but it is pretty rough.
Despite how rough the jokes are, though, as my love for ET is so great, just to see an animated ET walk by on a screen is I love that because it gets me close to an ET cartoon.
I will say, I like to see, even if it's not ET, I love to see character in other art styles. So seeing what would ET look like in Family Guy is pretty fun. That first one especially, I think, is a good design. Yeah, I may cut the back half of that. I do like Peter and Jesus flying across the moon. I don't know if I like Quagmire hitting ET with a plane. Anything, I'm kind of biased. I feel like anything bad happens to ET, I'm like, boo.
No, yeah, I'm not for it.
Have you ever seen that picture that'll go around sometimes and it looks like ET being barbecued on a grill? It looks like his head, but apparently
I have not, and I don't want to.
Well, apparently it was for a vegan thing, I believe, and it was kind of don't eat meat. Look at I guess picking a beloved character and be like, that's meat now. But people will share it as a meme and be like, and people would post it in my group, and I had to make a message and say anybody who posts this, it will be deleted. we don't like it, because people are very sensitive about it too. Because even I was I don't like it, but it is ET. But a lot of people were angry react. We don't like this. So
I could see that being a bummer.
I'm not a fan. So the Family Guy ones get, I don't know, 2 stars.
2. Two's great. I was gonna go with 2 as well.
The first one I like. The others might be more like half a Reese's Pieces.
Hey, you know what? They can go shiver in the creek, as far as I'm concerned. That's what an ET fan says when they want to say somebody did get lost. Why don't you just
shiver in a creek?
Yeah, why don't you just make ET after Halloween? Or why don't you make ET the morning after Halloween and shiver in a creek?
I'm gonna start using that. People just be like, what? What is he talking about?
Are you referencing ET like I think you are?
Oh man. What is another good one? Gremlins. Gremlins might be the best one, or one of the best ones. It is. I couldn't find the clip, but there's several references in there. I know they do the whole gag where Stripe is hiding in the stuffed animals and he's next to an ET plush.
Yeah,
And
so that's kind of a double reference because it's referencing
yeah,
ET hidden in the toys, and then it calls attention to that by having ET
uh-huh,
there, an actual
yeah,
toy ET, which is a pretty clever joke.
yeah. And I think I read somewhere that said they wanted him to like bite the head off, and then they were like, no, that's too far. But then they go and do that in Critters. So I'm wondering how it was okay in one and not the other. But
Yeah, what's this fascination with the eating of ET heads
yeah.
that the culture has?
There's a few other ones in
Yes,
Gremlins as well. I know he one of the Gremlins unplugs like he dismantles the phone lines, right, and says, or maybe he's calling, I don't know, there's something with the phone, and he does say like phone home
yeah,
or
he
something
pulls
like that.
the cords out of the box. He goes, "Phone home," which I
Yeah.
guess that gremlin has seen ET and is making a
that's
reference for his friends.
that's pretty good. And then another one on the theater marquee that Billy walks by. It says "A Boy's Life" is playing, and that was the working title for ET. Was "A
Yes,
Boy's Life," and
I love that little Easter
that's
egg.
a
That's
cool
good.
little deep cut. So
Yeah, and
I
the other
think,
one I think is "Watch the Skies," which is the original title for Close Encounters.
oh wow, I didn't realize that. That's
Uh,
awesome.
And then when you're watching Billy walk along through that whole area, it's also just cool to imagine you can overlay all of the main square in Hill Valley over each shop.
Oh, that's
It's
right
like the
too.
exact, yeah.
There's also a Steven Spielberg cameo in Gremlins.
Yes,
He's like riding on a weird little like a big wheel or something around in circles.
with like a TV screen hanging on the big wheel.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
good.
I mean, Gremlins I like love so much. It's like a perfect movie, and
That
having all these fun little references. And then yeah, of course that it is produced by Steven Spielberg. It's made by
hmm
Steven Spielberg. The Amblin logo that features ET is like a seal of approval on this Gremlins movie. And
yeah.
in Gremlins, the poster, the original poster of him holding a box with
Uh-huh.
his button on his jeans has the Amblin logo on it.
That's right. I noticed that recently. And
Yeah, and then the
um
Gremlins 2 poster, there's a cigar, and the seal on the cigar has a Amblin logo on it.
oh, that rules. They should have
Uh,
made those real. I would buy that cigar.
I know a cigar with the ET moon on it. Like,
That's awesome. They've
please.
they've continued that as well. The company NECA that makes a lot of good like horror figures.
Hmm.
They make a lot of Gremlins figures, and they made one that was like a back to school Gremlin, and he has a lunchbox, and on the side of it, side of the lunchbox is the Amblin logo, which I
I
thought
didn't
was
know that. That's
really fun.
cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
I've gotten a
good.
couple of those NECA Gremlin stuff. I will admit I love
Yeah,
them.
they make some good stuff.
Uh yeah,
I think
there's
Gremlins.
uh-huh.
I was just gonna say Gremlins gets 5 Reese's Pieces across the board. I think.
Yes, I think so too. And you could look at the whole movie as a funny kind of horror spoof version of ET itself. Uh,
Yeah.
that they're both made by Spielberg. It's almost like Joe Dante, the director, is like kind of having fun with the idea of like, what if the setup was like ET? This mystical creature gets brought into the suburbs,
Yeah.
and originally Billy wasn't like as a grown up. He was more Elliot's age in the original script, which is
Oh.
why Corey Feldman, his friend, is the same age. They changed Billy's
Yes.
age, but they didn't change
I
Corey Feldman's age.
which is really funny.
Yes. Uh,
um and I heard that I think I heard this recently that Corey Feldman was going to be an ET, like Elliot had a friend, and they were like, this
oh.
isn't working out. Let's put you in Gremlins.
Yeah, well, yeah, because ET's gonna be jealous of anybody that Elliot has,
Yeah.
or
Well, it kind of
anybody of
just
Elliot's gonna be
works.
jealous of ET.
It kind of just works out. Like I think if Elliot has it sounds bad, but if Elliot has a friend, the whole thing doesn't really work.
No, it's true. Yeah, because it's like he's got to be lonesome. That's the whole
Yeah,
point.
it's a whole, yeah. And I
I
love
mean, that's
how,
what's awesome about ET is that it just totally taps in to the fantasy that people remember having or don't remember having, but it kind of unlocks it when you watch it. Is like there's always a point where you're like, a little lonely when you're a kid. I'm like, oh, I wish I had a little imaginary friend or a buddy that only I knew about. Like
Yeah.
the movie is just a complete wish fulfillment. I mean, Melissa Matheson, who wrote it,
Yeah.
she's a beautiful inside and out, I mean, like person. A male screenwriter would never do this. She went and sat down with kids before she wrote ET to just be like, if you had a friend who was an alien, what kind of powers would you want him to have?
Yes.
And they're like, oh, I'd want him to fix my like boo-boos. And she's like, fix your boo-boos, got it. And then that's a scene. It's like any dipshit dude writer would have been like, E.T. has telekinesis, right? So he picks up a mug with his mind and flings it at the key's head. It'd be stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. She really got it. Like the combination of like her and Spielberg, I think they just like got kids. Like,
oh, it's
perfect.
Most perfect representation of how kids really are, how it feels to be a child. I mean, that's the most extraordinary thing about E.T. It's a special effect movie with this amazing creature that you totally believe. But the thing you most believe is how siblings interact, how families talk over a dinner table, how
one of the best dinner scenes ever.
Oh, perfect. And how siblings behave differently when their friends are over. It just has so many true to life observations. I mean,
yeah.
If it didn't have that, it'd be Mac and Me, or it'd be whatever. How many ripoffs? Harry and the Hendersons, all these movies that like tried to be ET.
I was gonna say
there's no real life observational stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does Mac and Me count as an ET reference?
A bastard ET reference. Yeah.
Yeah. One Reese's piece.
One Reese piece for you. Yeah. What is it? Is a Reese's? Is it just a Reese piece? It's not even Reese's Pieces. You just get one.
Yeah,
Reese
one Reese. Charlie's Angels has a pretty good ET reference. And I just watched the two of those like during the pandemic. We watched the two Charlie's Angels movies, and I was like, wow, these are such a blast. I had no idea. And Drew Barrymore notably stars in both, and she is, I don't remember why she's naked, but she's naked and running around a neighborhood covering up with like a pool floaty, and walks by a house with two boys sitting in there watching TV or playing video games. And there's an ET poster above the TV and an ET doll, I think probably the same one that we see in Gremlins. And the boys are eating a bowl of Reese's Pieces.
Oh, I didn't notice. Well, they get 5 Reese's Pieces automatically because I'm sure there's that amount alone in their bowl.
Yeah, they get a whole bowl of Reese's Pieces. Yeah, that's pretty fun.
The topper is that it's filmed. That scene is filmed at the actual ET house.
No way. Okay, I think I do remember hearing that, but I totally forgot.
Oh, I don't mean the topper. I just meant like the last little bit of information that like blew my mind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's not like like D. Wallace said. That wasn't even filmed at the actual house. So it's such a. They went through the work of going to the ET house.
Wow. So ET is not
inside, and it gives me a little bit of a insight into what that backyard actually looks like, and it does kind of look like it matches the real or the movie version of the backyard.
Yeah, it does. Now that you say it, and now that I know that there is a pool back there, it makes sense. Yeah. Wow. So
it's
ET is not filmed.
ET things in there as a way to like be like, see, we went to the house.
It's just funny that ET is not filmed in the ET house, but Charlie's Angels is filmed in the ET house.
That's true. That is very weird.
I want to meet the guy who's like, oh, the Charlie's Angels house.
Yeah, I bought the Charlie's Angels house. Oh, there's a scene where all the Charlie's Angels there. No, there's a scene where she falls into the backyard. Oh, okay.
What would we give?
Was also an ET that fell there. What? Get out of here.
What would we give Critters? That's basically the same as the Gremlins one, but it's kind of a little more violent, a little more aggressive.
Yeah, and Dee Wallace is in that Critters movie as well.
Yes,
Is that correct? I don't
sure
remember.
is. So
Hmm.
I think it's fun when they have an ET actor in there and they give a little
Wink and
nod to
ET.
ET.
Yeah.
I know they did that in Haunting of Hill House as well. Henry Thomas is in that, and
Really?
yeah, one of the kids has that 80s retro ET lunchbox. Pretty cool.
My wife watched that and I didn't see it, but I didn't know that that references. I don't know how I feel about that because that means ET exists in that world. And if they sit down and watch ET, isn't the dad like, holy shit, that kid looked, I looked like that when I was a
I
kid.
I was thinking about that with the Charlie's Angels one too. Like if ET exists and these kids are fans, and this woman walks by, they're like, "Oh my God, Drew
It's grown up
Barrymore!"
dirty. Yeah. Oh my God, Drew Barrymore. You're right. Exactly. It would just be
Yeah,
like
it
actress Drew
raises.
Barrymore.
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions. Um,
Uh,
Critters, I think, automatically gets knocked down a little bit lower than Gremlins just because it's not Amblin. I don't
yep.
think
No. Yeah.
so.
And
It's yeah. It
I'd say
seems.
2.
Oh, two. Wow.
They're mean to ET.
That's true. That's true. I'll give that a 2. A perfectly good plush. I wonder if they had to actually rip up a plush ET.
It's a crime.
Am I missing
As far as I'm concerned.
any really big ones you wanted to talk about? Because I know we both compiled some lists and we're
Uh,
going we're going pretty long. We could go forever, I'm sure, but I don't want
Yeah.
to keep you all day.
I mean, I'll share some of my quick faves,
Yeah.
and you can feel free to share your thoughts, of course. There are spoofs in Airplane 2. There's also some good spoofs in Naked Gun 2.5 and Last Action Hero, where they go across the moon.
Yes.
As far as the go across the moon references, those are my favorite because
Yeah.
they're not just kind of inserted in, like the whole thing is
Mhm.
kind of building off to a payoff where it's like, oh, Frank Drebin in Naked Gun 2.5 falls into a guy in a wheelchair, and the wheelchair just activates and launches off a balcony across. Like all of it was in service to get to the ET reference, so I think that's good.
That's pretty good.
Same with Last Action Hero.
What
I
is
like. Uh-huh.
there was one on your list called In America, and am I right about the title? I tried to look it up and just came up
Yeah.
with a bunch of like conservative podcasts and shit. So I was like, I don't know which one it is.
Yeah,
But
in
it
America, not titled well for Google search. That's for sure. That one actually kind of blew my mind because I wasn't expecting it, and I saw it in the theater. And the movie it takes place in 1982, and it's about an immigrant family who moves to New York, and it's a
uh-huh.
hot summer, and it's so hot that they need to cool off, so they all go to see ET.
Wow.
And so there's a moment where you get to see the family sitting in a theater watching a screen, and on screen is ET. So that's cool.
Wow. Do
And
they talk about it at all? Do
and
they
then yeah, it becomes a plot point a little bit, or a reference point later in the movie. They have somebody who comes into their life to help them, and one of the children kind of talks about ET later in reference to him. So
wow.
it is a big ET reference.
Have
The
you
movie's
ever
so.
you hyped me up for it so much and I was like, oh well. That's
Come,
cool though.
yeah, come for the drama, stay for the ET reference in America.
Have you ever seen the Taika Waititi film Boy?
I have not. Does it have a ET reference?
Oh boy, literally boy. The very beginning of the movie, the opening is a quote comes on screen, and the quote is I'm gonna be embarrassed if I butcher it because it's from ET, but
No,
it's
I don't.
you could you could stay here forever, we could grow up together, and it's like
Oh,
says that it's
wow.
from ET and everything, and then all throughout the movie, because it takes place in the 80s, is just like tons of ET jokes, at least like I feel like 4. It's like an ongoing like
That's
thing where
awesome.
it'll come up, and it's just like a great like coming of age story too, like a
Oh,
really
perfect.
might be Taika Waititi's best movie.
Oh,
Honestly,
nice.
yeah,
I'll gotta check that out.
definitely worth checking out.
I
Lots
can't
of
believe I haven't.
Yeah, so he must be like a big ET guy as well.
Yeah, it's nice that age range of filmmakers, him and the Noah Baumbachs, and Paul Thomas Anderson has some nice like ET references in his movies too. Like the guys who were born in 1970 to 71 who were 10 or 11 when
Yeah.
ET came out. That seems to be the sweet spot. God love him.
What else do you have on your list, and we can speed run them real quick?
Yeah, I like the specific reference of seeing costumes of ET Halloween costumes in movies, especially since there's the whole Halloween sequence in ET where he sees a Yoda and stuff. So then once you start getting ET costumes in other movies, it kind of becomes this weird. But Mr. Mom has a really funny scene where a mom through the whole scene is wearing an ET mask and talking through it.
Yes, I looked that up before we got on. Even before you sent me your list, I was like, oh wow, I did not know about this. That's fun.
Yeah, so that one's funny. You can see a ET costume in Halloween 4 on a wall. And like I mentioned, there's a ET mask in Pee-wee's Big Adventure in Pee-wee's bedroom.
Yeah.
Next to the fire pole that he goes down and it changes his clothes. There's an ET mask on another object next to the fireman's pole that he goes down.
Wow. I'm gonna have to rewatch that and keep an
Yeah,
eye out. That's pretty fun.
check that out. A couple others. I don't know if you've watched the Earth Day special. It was this like really
Yes.
For people who love cross world genre crossing stuff. The Earth Day special was like, yes, in this universe there are Ghostbusters, there are ETs, there are Doc from Back to the Future. They just like put them all together to talk about Earth Day 1990.
Yeah, if that couldn't get people to believe in climate change and like rally together, then I don't know what can.
We have?
Maybe they need to air it every year, and then we'll get somewhere.
Have you seen that moment? You can look it up, I think.
Yeah, I post it every Earth Day. I've only been running the Twitter account for like a couple years, but I'll post that clip of him he makes a book. ET makes a book, which I can't remember what it's titled, but it's like just how to fix Earth, how to take care of the Earth. ET can like write books in no time flat, but
I remember watching it was on TV and my mom saying, it feels like they just kind of drug out the ET out here and just like put him down and like, because he's just standing there and they have like leaves blowing around him as he fixes Earth, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, he's using his telekinesis to have garbage, like he's in a spiral of garbage.
Yeah.
I don't want to see ET doing that.
I do love that though. It looks awesome.
Well, and I love ET stuff like that and like PSAs or like the video that they shoot in the line.
Yeah.
Right, because
and they've done several iterations of that too. Like I think it's funny that Spielberg is like, yeah, I'll do another one.
He loves
like,
it.
It's so fun. I'm like, get one more update in there, like for the 40th, and then we can call it a day. But I want to make him make him hang out with ET one more time.
I think he probably reshoots those so he can hang out with ET again.
Honestly,
good
probably
for me to hang out with that ET guy.
Oh my god! It just made me think of something that I used to think of as a kid, and this is embarrassing. Well, I was very into Spielberg, and I would check out the Spielberg biographies at the library all the time.
Me too.
And then they're great. Oh god, that reminded me of another story, but we'll
do share.
Well, I remember one time my teacher was like, oh, you're like really into Spielberg, you should do like a little report. And I was like, okay, that'd be fun. So I'm working on the bus on this like reading and writing. The only thing I had was a red marker. The bus like kind of bumps and I made a red mark in the book, and I remember putting it back in like just the rest of my elementary school career. Anytime I'd walk past that shelf, I was like filled with guilt.
Oh my god, a true ET sweetheart fan. I doubt the guys who have a RoboCop podcast or whatever are like, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't mean to, but I put a mark in the library book. Don't be mad at me. That is such a, I've had so many experiences that as a kid, and that's why we love ET. ET's
I
that.
I very much relate to the podcast The Ride guys when they call themselves good boys, because I was very much like, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to ruffle any feathers.
I connect so much with that guy, those guys on the podcast The Ride, because of that, because the choice that you could be somebody who actively does things to make your parents think you are a bad boy. I was like, how did somebody get wired that way that they would ever want to make their mommy and daddy not think that they were a good boy?
Yeah. But I remember thinking, like, I bet I would imagine what Steven Spielberg's house looked like. And it would be like, he probably has ET. Like, ET probably is like, he has
cooks.
Like, I knew enough that I was like, ET's not like real, but like he definitely has the one from the movie, like posed in his house somewhere.
He has to. I mean,
I would hope so.
Like, that's what I would think as a kid too. I'd be like, oh my God. And then it's right next to the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
I did go to a Planet Hollywood that encased in glass was the kid who rolls into a ball in Hook.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, so if you want to see that the prop of the kid who rolled into a ball, head over to Las Vegas Planet Hollywood. But the that Earth Day special one's good. The little cluster of ETs and Phantom Menace.
I was gonna save that for last because it's very it's awesome. Also, the Earth Day special reminded me. Have you seen the Robin Williams special with ET? It's
it's like, it like about the making of it, or it's about aliens and movies? Yes.
Yes, exactly. So they just like show a bunch of, it's like basically a clip show of like random alien movies, but then also like interspersed is like ET sure is great, right? Like I don't remember what year it was, but it's clearly like trying to capitalize.
Yes.
And the very end is like a tender moment with like Robin Williams and ET. Like I don't think they meet at all throughout. But then the end, he's like, do you have to go? And he's like, can't you stay? I'll come with you. And he's like having this heart to heart with ET. I'm like,
that's what I was gonna say about the Earth Day special. That the PSAs, the ride line cues, ET is such a specific. The movie casts such a certain spell that can really only be pulled off by like one person. Steven Spielberg. So it is so like endearing when they try to bring out and recreate the magic in this like Robin Williams special or this Earth Day special. It's like, guys, I think it's sweet, but
it still gets me every time. I'm a sucker. They just gotta play the music, and I'm like, oh man, it happens all the time at Universal because they'll just randomly play like the ET score in certain areas of the park, and I'm always like, goosebumps. Oh shit.
That score, I mean, that is total Pavlovian response.
Yeah.
Here, before we started recording, I tried to for you.
Oh man. Oh wow.
Let's see. Nope. Here we go. Hey, all right.
Hey, there we go. That was awesome.
God. Now, did that give you goosebumps?
Tons all over, full body goosebumps.
I bet every person who listened to that was like, that was better than anything John Williams could possibly do.
I work at a church doing their video stuff, and I always want to ask the organist, like, hey, you want to like play the ET score, and I'll just come in and like sit there and feel like it would sound cool.
Elliot found ET in a little shack right outside his house because he wasn't welcome to come in, much like the manger. I mean, there's so many. I think you could get them to play it, and it's fully fitting. Sorry, the only other ones that I wanted to share, the one that I think is my very favorite is in Scream. Somebody's trying to describe The Howling.
Uh-huh.
And they go, "What's that werewolf movie with ET's mom?" And I think it's so funny because that's how people try to describe movies. Dee
Yeah.
Wallace, who's in The Howling, this werewolf
Uh-huh.
movie, she is not the mother of ET, but everybody totally gets it. If you say ET's mom, you're like, oh, Dee Wallace, the werewolf
Yeah.
movie. Yes, The Howling.
She saw him for all of like 2 minutes in like the worst state. And then from a distance when he's saying goodbye to her children. So
You're right.
she apparently gets that a lot because she told me a story about like someone was like drunk and recognized her in a bathroom and was like, "Oh my God, you're ET's mom." She's like, yeah, maybe back it up a little bit.
Please back up. And then the last one that I think might be a new one for people to hear. So I really like listening to directors' audio commentaries on YouTube. People will rip them off DVDs and put secretly, illegally on YouTube. And I was listening to the audio commentary for Predator 2.
Uh-huh.
And he says, Gary Busey's character, I'm not going to totally tell you or something like that, but I'll give you a hint. He's named after Francois Truffaut's character in Close Encounters, or it's a reference to Truffaut's character in Close Encounters. And I was like, well, what's his name? I wonder what his name, what's Gary Busey's name that would be a reference to this. And I checked, and his name is Peter Keyes. So I think the director meant to say not Francois Truffaut's character in Close Encounters, the
Peter
very
Coyote's
similar character,
yeah,
who's basically the same thing in ET. Peter Coyote's character, Keyes, Peter Coyote Keyes.
Has to be.
I think that Gary Busey's character is a reference to ET in Predator 2.
Wow. Dang, I never knew that, but that's wow.
Oh,
that's
that might be as pitiful as my playing of the ET theme on guitar, but I wanted to share it with you nonetheless.
No, I think that's great. I had no idea. It's funny that he got the reference wrong.
Yeah, he was so close. The other story he shares on that's really good, and I wish it existed on YouTube, but it doesn't. I found a newspaper article at the time that shares that it did happen. Apparently, an actor was getting interviewed on Good Morning America Live on the set of Predator 2, and the director didn't know where the actor was, and he got upset. And he didn't know the TV was on, the cameras were on live, and he came in, he was like, "Come back to set." He took the guy's mic and like pulled him away. And then the host of Good Morning America was like, "I guess there was a problem there or something."
Holy
and then the director shares that story in the commentary. If somebody could find that video footage, I would love seeing the director of Predator 2 flip out on live TV.
Awesome. How wild is that?
Yeah.
Wow. So I think saving the best for last, I would say this is probably the best, is that Phantom Menace reference. Because I think it completely like recontextualizes the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Like they already kind of do it in ET because he recognizes Yoda. So that's like,
because when he sees Yoda, he says home. So
so he knows him, a familiarity.
Yes.
Which is fun, but it's like it works as just like a joke, but you could almost think like, oh, he just looks like an alien, but then it's like, nope, this Phantom Menace now confirms that this is this is canon.
Yeah, it was canon. And I do like it. It's kind of like ET is like Spielberg tossing the ball to George Lucas and catching it.
Yeah.
And then he threw back another reference and he was like, yeah, in Star Wars, there's a whole council of ETs, my man. Like, it's very cool. And I like seeing them. They're so cute. They're in that little pod, right? Of just little ETs.
Yeah, in the Senate hearing, and they're all kind of like freaking out. Did you know that Wikipedia has apparently this is canon, and I don't know like where people find this information, but it's clearly out there somewhere, that the name of one of them is Senator Greebleeps, and Greebleeps is Spielberg spelled backwards. And there's a whole like backstory where he's a senator in the Galactic Senate, Greebleeps was present for a session of the Senate in the Senate building on Coruscant. Um, After Senators Lot Dodd and Axmo stalled Amidala's request, she called for a vote of no confidence in Supreme Chancellor Finis Valorum. This sent the Senate into an uproar, and Greebleeps and the two other aliens on the senator's repulsor pod stood and threw their arms up in the air, along with many others who cried out in response to the vote.
Oh, that's right. They're upset in that scene.
Yeah, he's on the. I believe Greebleeps is on the correct side of history. So in the Star Wars universe,
Much like Spielberg.
yeah. So I think that's a lot of fun. I'm assuming that they probably can't bring them back into the Star Wars universe these days. I feel like stuff like that doesn't happen as often. Like,
I know.
I don't know.
It was really great if it would be Star Wars TV series, even like an episode. The Mandalorian teams up with ET or something to fight to solve a crime.
You can go to the Green Planet.
Yeah, I mean, I do wish. I don't want a full-blown ET sequel. I do not want that because it's a perfect movie. But
my idea,
a cartoon on the ET planet.
That's
cool.
exactly what I've been pitching. I've said I think you could have your cake and eat it too, where you get more ET, but you don't kind of ruin the charm of the original. And you could do either a cartoon that takes place on the Green Planet with all those like wacky guys from the ride, or if they wanted to get real crazy with it, do it like Dark Crystal style puppetry for all of these guys. And that'd be pretty so outrageous. It'd be awesome.
The technology, I'm sure too, before it would take multiple servos and 8 to 12 people to operate. I'm sure technology has come along where you could have a ET talk to like 5 other ETs at his house. And, it would all work animatronically.
They do it a little bit in a progressive commercial from 1999.
Some ETs? Really?
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
Oh man, I'll send you
that out.
I'll send you a video I did all about progressives. It wasn't just a commercial either. It was their whole Super Bowl campaign was ET based. Actually,
wow.
I don't know if you can see it from here. I have, yeah. Oh, you can see the road sign. Yeah, I have a road sign that says, there we go. It's like right up there that says "Buckle up," and that's what they did for that campaign. They like did their commercials, but they also like put out actual street signs with ET wearing like seatbelts.
Really?
It's pretty fun.
You should have right next to that have you seen those Coors beer ads where like ET's like behind a bar like pouring a drink?
Yep, I got that right back there somewhere.
I was gonna say that right next to like drive safely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that actually
drink some Coors, but wear a seatbelt.
ET was very close to being just like the ambassador for like safe driving and like buckling up.
I think as long as you don't bring humans, the grown-up human versions of Elliot and stuff into the mix, you can do anything with these ETs, and they should.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I know somebody once had this really great idea for ET sequel where the spaceship flies over Earth again and it starts to shake, as spaceships do when they go over planets they've been over.
I heard it shakes a lot too.
Yeah, what was the pitch? I remember it being really a great idea. It was like the spaceship shakes so much it shakes ET out.
It shakes specifically ET out.
And no other aliens. And I guess there would be a concern if he was shaken out that he would fall to Earth and instantly die. But I guess ET just lands right in Elliot's backyard.
Lands smack dab, safe and sound.
Of all the corners of the globe he could land, he falls specifically in Elliot.
Right in Elliot's room. Oh my god. Well, this has been a blast.
Yes, we can wrap this. It's been a blast so much.
We don't have to, but I feel bad.
No. I was just gonna say my favorite version. There's a podcast that I'll just share that I really love called Star Wars Minute. They were the very first podcast that did the minute by minute breakdown of beloved movies, and so they do individual episode for a minute of each Star Wars movie.
Wow.
But my very favorite version of kid brain watching a movie that a listener shared when they were watching Return of the Jedi, which is when Ula or whatever, when Jabba drops her down to be eaten by the Rancor. So they don't show it. You just see her drop down, and like C-3PO looks down and she screams. And then the next shot is Jabba the Hutt's hand going in and grabbing a frog out of a bowl and then like eating the frog. This person, and I totally get it. It's how kids think, and it's how things should be. They were like, Jabba turned that woman into a frog and ate her.
I could totally see that being the case.
Yes,
Man.
it should be that. It's wrong that it's not that.
Put him in the frog machine.
But yes, Wesley, thank you so much for having me. You're a delight.
Thank you.
It's obviously a delight. But talking about it with you is also so much fun.
Yeah, we could go for probably a whole nother hour, but I don't know if anybody else would buckle in for it as much as we do.
Well, I think we've now officially maybe exceeded the running time of the movie itself. So once you do that, that's when you know you've entered full fandom. Is when
that's when you know it's a success.
A success and a true obsession, a true exquisite obsession.
Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Anything you want to tell everybody about?
Oh yeah, so that podcast, the podcast you mentioned with Gorley and Rust is me and Matt Gorley. We talk about horror movies that we love, and I also my band Don't Stop Will Die. My buddy Mike Cassidy and I are in it. We have a podcast called Song a Week, where every Wednesday we release a new fully produced song, and people can check that out as well.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll have to do this again, talk about some other weird facet of ET-dom.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you ever want to have me back, I'd love to come back. I'd love to come back to the Green Planet.
Yeah, we got to get you to the Green Planet, actually. We got to get you to Orlando so you can see that ride before they try to take it from us again.
I have relatives in that Florida area, and if I get there, number one on my list is getting on that ET ride and getting my name said by ET.
Oh man, it's great.
You didn't get the insult of hello, goodbye, friend.
Yeah, that's pretty scathing, but he does say my name, and it was nice this time because they took it away during COVID and they just brought it back since the last time we'd been. So
they took away the name saying portion.
Yeah, they just had him. I think he just said goodbye, friends, and that was kind of it.
Because it was going to involve hand to hand.
Yeah, grabbing the passport, handing it to another person, and all that.
Yeah, the first time I heard about the hello friend thing was my friend Matt went with his friend Jeremiah, and he told me they went on the ET ride, and he said, "Goodbye, Matt. Goodbye, friend." And then, but my friend Neil Campbell, he told me he went on the ET ride, and Neil cracked me up so hard when he first told me about it because he was like, he got the hello friend treatment from ET for the name Neil. And Neil was like, "You don't know the name Neil? One of the only humans from my Earth who came close to you was named Neil," referencing Neil Armstrong, which I thought was so funny that ET would be like, "You know what? He's right. Neil Armstrong has come closer to me than most humans."
The funniest would be if he didn't know somebody's name that he knows from the movie.
Elliot. My name is Elliot. You can't say goodbye, Elliot. That'd be a good test next time. Oh, what
that's true. I've heard people do that where they'll go and like give all the names of like the Beatles or something, and I don't condone it. That's rude. ET wants to give you a personalized greeting, and that's how you treat him.
Don't disrespect ET like that, especially when he's trying to do something so kind, like saying your name.
Oh yeah, and I know we did mention in our back and forth emails Ready Player One with a question mark, and there's no ET in Ready Player One. Weirdly enough, I saw an interview with Spielberg and the two leads in that movie. I don't remember their names, but
Darren Reddy and Lisa Player.
I think that's right. And what one of them says to Spielberg, they go, "Oh, well, why no ET?" And Spielberg said, "Oh, he's kind of been in retirement." And remember, ET has no gender. ET is a plant, actually. Remember this. And I just thought it was funny that he was telling these actors, like, don't forget, like, ET is a plant.
What a funny detail that I mean, first of all, that he's in retirement. I had heard, that Spielberg was like very strict about the Spielberg references, because I get it, he didn't want to be too like self-congratulatory or something, but I would have loved an ET in there. The fact that I remember first hearing that in college, the ET is no gender, ET is a plant. So I like that message is being spread. That is cool.
It is cool. And I like that Spielberg is just like so into ET lore still. Like even like when promoting Ready Player One, he's like, oh, by the way, I'll drop some ET knowledge on you.
Oh, that's maybe one of the best things getting Spielberg talking about ET ever is you can tell he has beyond like affection for the characters and the movie, and I mean, why wouldn't he? But it's nice to see a twinkle in his eye when ET.
Yeah, it feels like it's like just like a little more special than the other movies.
Yeah, probably more. I mean, I guess when he saw a test screening of Hook, he was not happy. So it was the opposite experience with ET.
Well, man, buddy, this has been great. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching and sticking with us while we nerd out a little bit. And we'll see you next time.
Be good.
Be good. We'll be right here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank Ruby Mariscal for our amazing artwork and intro animation. And I want to thank Kitty Terry for letting me use her amazing song as our theme music. And I want to thank you for tuning in. And until next time, I'll be right here.